All right, so I want to say thank you so much for coming back on time, and we're going to pick up the pace a little bit and get this train rolling, because there is one cardinal rule in doing the kind of work that I do, and the cardinal rule is start on time and end early. All right, so I'm going to try to get us out a little bit early. So one of the things that is extremely important for us to realize and recognize is to redefine this conversation that we typically have around diversity. And what I want to start with is talking about what diversity is not. Diversity is not political correctness. In the 90s, we did a really good job of pausing people before they said dumb stuff, right? But political correctness has become what? It's a joke, right? I don't know what to call people. I don't know how to describe people. I just can't communicate what is really going on because I don't know what to call people or how to describe them, right? So political correctness is not diversity. Because I was in a training once and a woman stood up and she said, Andre, I want to know why all the colored people are moving into my neighborhood. And how do you think the audience responded? Were you guys there? Right? Yeah, that's exactly how they responded. And why did they gasp in horror? Because you can't say it. You're not supposed to say color. But it was obvious to me that this woman did not have a lot of stamps in her passport. That she didn't go to the Ivy League schools and have this, fancy education. But what she did have was a pure heart and a pure question. And so as the facilitator, what was my responsibility to her? To answer the question. I could get to all the political correct stuff later, but she had the guts and the courage to stand up and ask a question that other people had, but they didn't have the guts to ask. Right? So it's not about political correctness. Because I've also been in conversations with folks who've been politically correct, but as they're speaking, your skin just crawls, right? Because you can just hear the nastiness that seems to come from their soul. So it's not about political correctness. It's also not about black and white. And I mean both the racial construct as well as the absolute values of being absolutely right and absolutely wrong. So diversity is not about that. It's also not about blame, fault, and guilt. A lot of times, and people get on me about this and they say, Andre, you shouldn't go to that place. But a lot of times, particularly when we engage in conversations with white people, I feel bad for them because it seems like they're getting beat up with this blame and this guilt and this fault and this shame. And I don't know about you, but my mother tries to use that tactic. And so when she asks me, she'll call it, and I'll call her and she'll say, oh, you didn't have to call me. You don't, that card you said, I know you didn't have to, you work hard for your money, all that kind of stuff. And so when I give her gifts or when I do stuff for her, I do it, but how do I feel about doing it? Right? I feel, like, And so a lot of times people wonder why particularly white people aren't really excited about, civil rights and helping and all that kind of stuff. And it's because they feel coerced or pushed or forced into doing that stuff. As opposed to, I know when I had a girlfriend, she worked nights and I worked days. That didn't seem to work, but guess what? It worked. Why?
Didn't see each other.
She said we didn't see each other. No, because I wanted it to work. So I found ways to make sure that we were able to see each other, right? Diversity is also not therapy. A lot of times trainers want people to cry or to reveal their most inner soul and all that kind of stuff. I have office hours for that kind of stuff, and I charge a little bit more per hour, all right? It's also not about meritocracy, and meritocracy is that concept that if you work hard enough, you can be just like me. What's the problem with that concept of meritocracy?
want to be you.
Yeah, what if you don't want to be me, right? And it would be a shame if I had to play basketball, or if LeBron James had to play basketball the way I do. I'm not very good, just to let you know. But they call me priest on the basketball court because I cross people up. Okay, never mind. All right, so it's not about meritocracy. It's also not about tolerance. And I know people get nervous when I say that diversity is not about tolerance because that's what we've been taught, that we need to tolerate people, right? But what is tolerance? What's that word mean?
Understanding.
Understanding to what? To put up with, right? My brother-in-law came to visit. I tolerated that dude. Why?
Because your sister's family.
Because I knew when he was going home. Right? Tolerance suggests that I will put up with these immigrants, or I'll put up with these people from across town, or I'll put up with these co-workers. Because at some point I know what? I won't have to. But are our communities getting less diverse? Are human relationships, are human relations getting less complicated? I would say no. And so tolerance isn't a great place for us to rest our hat. However, I know many of you have been in trainings and you've been discovering things about yourself and the world, and you're saying to yourself, but isn't political correctness a good step? You know, isn't meritocracy a good first step? Isn't tolerance, where we should start? And I will offer to you this statement. Babies drink milk. Why do babies drink milk?
They need it.
They need it. They have to. It's the earliest form of nourishment that their bodies can handle. But at some point, babies move from milk to tofu. I'm part vegetarian, mostly, right? More of an omnivore, I guess. Right? So political correctness, meritocracy, and respect, those are great first steps. But oftentimes people try to stop there as opposed to taking diversity to the next level. So Andre, what is that next level? Funny you would ask. Before we get to that next level, I do want to talk a little bit about my approach. So first of all, I believe that people can learn, change, and grow. That for the most part, the core of who we are doesn't change a whole lot, but we can change and manage who we are to kind of create the ultimate in ourselves. It's funny, when I get around my parents or I hear my parents call my name in a certain kind of way, I become 7. Does that happen to anybody else? Right? So what I know is that my essence doesn't necessarily change, but I can learn and change and grow to my environment. I can learn and change and grow to the people that I'm around. And so my environment becomes very important to my growth and development. All human behavior is goal-directed, that people do what they do because they're trying to achieve something. And I know as adults, children typically frustrate us around this because we ask them, why did they do that? And what is their answer typically? I don't know. Right? But the frustration comes because we know that they had some kind of purpose in mind. Lastly, people do what makes sense to them, even if it doesn't make sense to who? Others, to you. So even if it doesn't make sense to you, they do those things. And lastly, attitude is a response to a goal. All right? What is an attitude, or what have you been taught about what an attitude is? What's an attitude?
Positive or negative? It's
positive or negative. Attitude. How many people have been accused of having an attitude? Right? So my parents, and we'll get to, may as well flip to that slide. So this is me as a little baby. And then this is us around Easter time. This is our annual Easter photo at Olin Mills Studio. Yes. Some of you may be old enough to remember that. And these are my grandparents. These are my 2 uncles, and this is my dad. And then this is my family in our Cosby years. If you look close, you can see Vanessa and Theo and all that kind of stuff. And this is me as a teenager, and I know you can't see it real well, but I'm holding a double-barreled sawed-off shotgun in this picture. And I know that seems, kind of scary, but context is everything. And the context was scary too. All right? We were at a concert, and I don't know if you know what the band plays or any of their songs, but the name of the band will give you the kind of atmosphere we were in. And the name of the band was Public Enemy.
That's
right. So that's me. So my dad and my mom, my dad was my pastor growing up. And on Sundays, we would go to church from 7:30 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. We'd stop at 3 o'clock for chicken, not because we're black, but because chicken is delicious. All right? So Sunday, church all day. I asked my dad to borrow the car Friday night, and because my dad loves me, what does he say? No, he says yes, he loves me. Right? So I get the car, I'm kicking it with my friends, I'm hanging out, I put gas in the car, I come home before curfew, and my father says I have what kind of an attitude? A good attitude or a positive attitude. And what do I say about my dad's attitude?
good.
That he also has a good or a positive attitude. So Sunday rolls along, my best friend Dexter calls me at noon and says, Andre, can you pick me up for the movies? What do I know about Sunday?
Church all day.
Church all day. But I'm feeling gutsy because Jesus is my friend. If you call on him, he'll answer prayers, right? So I'm like, all right, Jesus, hook a brother up, hook a brother up. So I go up to my dad and I say, Dad, can I borrow the car? And what does my dad say? No. Not only does he say no, but he also gives me the lecture that he gives me about how I'm leading people to hell. Right? In our house, every negative consequence, the ultimate consequence was that you were going to hell. And either they would send you to hell or they'd show you the way. Right? And so what did I say about my father's attitude? That he had a bad attitude. And consequently, what did he say about my attitude? That I had a bad attitude. So what was it that actually drives or creates one's attitude?
Goal. Context.
The achievement of your goal, right? I don't know if you've had teenagers, been around teenagers, or been a teenager yourself, but you deny a teenager access to their goal, and what kind of attitude do you get? Bad, nasty, and as my grandmother would say, funky. F-O-N-K-E. Funky attitude, right? At the same time, if you give a teenager access to their goal, how do they respond?
Good attitude.
Positively. And it's almost as if they purr. They want to cuddle and right? Other times you can't get close to those creatures, right? So an attitude is determined by a goal. So if I encounter a coworker or a member of the community who has a bad attitude, what is the one thing that I know about them for sure?
They didn't get their goal.
They're not achieving their goal, right? And so there are two ways that I can respond to them in terms of helping them change their attitude. The first is the easiest, which is to what?
Getting their goal.
Help them get their goal, right? So how can I help you, help me, help you, right? How can I be of service to make sure that you get to your goal? But what if their goal is not something that's within my power, it's not within, the city to be able to do this, and even if they couldn't handle it anyway, then what becomes my responsibility as a helper? So I change their goal? That's what someone said. They said that I changed their goal. How does that work? All right, let's demonstrate. Can I have one volunteer? One volunteer. Oh, just one. All right, good. All right. So, I'd like for you to put your hand up like this. I'm going to talk to the people and then I'll come back.
Okay.
All right. So, I've been working out. All right. Sometimes when I'm in the gym and I'm doing my reps, people get me confused with Dwayne Johnson.